Shut the F up for life.
He needs to learn how to wrap that thing up.
What is going on, everyone? It is us, the Philly Experience. The usual suspects are back, and we have a jammed-packed show for you today, talking Eagles, Sixers, sprinkling some Phillies in there, and some general NFL topics. I'm Tanner Gilmartin, joined by Tyre Hood and Max Gretzula. Guys, let's get right into it. We missed a lot while we were away. I mean, free agency was wild
it's
in
hard.
the NFL. We have Deshaun Watson to the Browns, Russ to the Broncos, Tyreek Hill to the Dolphins, Davante Adams to the Raiders, Matty Ice to the Colts. Plenty of other guys were on the move as well. Out of the people I highlighted and much more that happened in the NFL, what do you guys think is your highlight move so far in free agency?
I mean, the highlight move so far for me, and the only reason why this is highlighted to me is because it directly affected the Philadelphia Eagles offseason, was the trade of Russell Wilson. I mean, if for Russell Wilson's entire career, all right, the Philadelphia Eagles have been after this man. As a matter of fact, he was going to be the third round draft pick for the Philadelphia Eagles.
Yeah. When he said he was going to bring them a Super Bowl.
Correct. When instead the Seahawks picked them before the Philadelphia Eagles, and it turned out to be Nick Foles. The rest is history. We already know. But the reason why that affected it so much was because Russell Wilson had a no trade clause in his contract. So that allowed him to be able to maneuver and move to, pretty much wherever he wanted to go to. And of course, the Philadelphia Eagles had interest, not being, that enamored, I guess you could say, with Jalen Hurts. So they tried to kick the tires with Russell. I guess it didn't work out. He ends up going to Denver, which I've said, the last time that we met up, I don't think that was the smartest move considering the division he was playing in, not to mention the conference that he's playing in. It's not going to be that easy for him to take the Broncos to the playoffs, but I digress. But for me, that was probably the most standout move. Only because you don't see franchise quarterbacks moving like that anymore. Let's be honest here. This has been a crazy offseason, guys. I mean, you don't see the franchise players that's been moved. You don't typically see that in the average offseason.
Yeah, it's been crazy, honestly. Probably the most wild offseason we've seen ever in the NFL. Tyreek Hill and Deshaun Watson stand out off the bat just because the Tyreek Hill thing was so quick. It was like half an hour later after the breaking news came out of him wanting a trade, requesting a trade, he's gone. But I have to stick with Davante Adams going to the Raiders because – like with Rodgers coming back to Green Bay, you think, okay, Adams is going to stay. Rodgers must talk behind closed doors, got Adams to stay, and they're going to keep doing their thing in Green Bay. And then he gets traded. And not only that, but he gets traded to a team that looks kind of dangerous now on paper. When you talk about Hunter Renfrow and Darren Waller, and now Davante Adams, Derek Carr, serviceable quarterback, probably above average, top 12 quarterback in the league, even though he gets some disrespect. But you have Josh Jacobs still in the backfield, and then Chandler Jones added to that defense. So that division is going to be wild out there because, like you said, Steve, Russell Wilson now comes to the division as well, and you already had Patty Mahomes and Herbert. So it's going to be a crazy season upcoming, and that division is just going to be one to watch week in and week out.
That's going to be such a competitive division, Max. You took my pick with Davante Adams not being on the Packers anymore. I mean, what is Aaron Rodgers going to do?
Who's he throwing to? It's going to be so weird not
exactly. Yeah, and I think aside from that, I do want to talk about the Tyreek Hill move because you have now Aaron Rodgers has won an MVP without Davante Adams on the team. You go back to earlier, his first MVP nod. But with Patrick Mahomes, I mean, his playing, we haven't seen him play without Tyreek Hill on the team. Now, there was so many weapons, and let's not forget to mention Juju Smith-Schuster is now on the Chiefs. I know that they are heavily looking at DK Metcalf as well, which would be crazy because it's like the Chiefs don't miss a beat. But it's going to be interesting to see how this affects Kelsey's play, where you have Tyreek Hill sort of distracting defense away from Travis Kelce, giving him open looks. Who's going to be that guy? Who's going to be that distraction? Is Juju Smith-Schuster going to be able to step up in that role? I mean, obviously not as fast, not as good as Tyreek Hill. But it's going to be interesting to see how Patrick Mahomes can sort of adapt in this new position he's in. And again, we'll still have to see if they make another addition to the wide receiver position, but there's still guys out there. For you guys, you have, and I mentioned DK, Matthews out there, Baker Mayfield is out there. We mentioned that Deshaun Watson moved to the Browns. Jimmy G, I think he might just return to San Francisco, but that's my opinion. Stephon Gilmore, you have Wagner, who looks like he's going back to the Ravens. OBJ showed some interest returning to Cleveland. To you guys, which player are you circling, and where do you think that they're going to go?
It's a hard one. It's a hard one. The issue with OBJ, of course, is him suffering that injury during the Super Bowl. So that's going to take him out of commission for a nice little while for whoever decides they want to pick him up. So that's one issue right there. Bobby Wagner is still a hell of a linebacker. I don't know how the hell he's still out there unsigned. That's a question mark for me. DK Metcalf, I can't see them. Unless they're in total rebuild mode, I can't see them keeping DK Metcalf on the Seahawks squad. I can't see that. Baker Mayfield, he's probably the most likely one that's going to be moved. I can't see the Browns keeping Baker Mayfield on that squad, considering what they did, what they traded for, what they gave up, what they're paying Deshaun Watson. And Baker Mayfield, in my humble opinion, I don't think he's a backup caliber quarterback. I think he is a decent starter at best. So he's not going to want to play second pine to Deshaun Watson. He's going to want to get himself out of there by any means necessary. As a matter of fact, when the trade went down, he was already trying to get himself out of Cleveland. So
I think he's most definitely on the move.
Yeah, I think he's going to be the one to go, the next big player to move next.
What team do you think would he go to? What would be the best fit for Baker Mayfield?
Oh, man.
I already have an idea off the top of my head right now. I think the best move for him will be Seattle. I think him going up there and taking over Russell Wilson's role. He's going to have a good coach in Pete Carroll. He'll have a couple of solid weapons with Lockett and DK. It seems like a solid fit, a team that needs a quarterback. I thought the Saints originally, until they brought back Jameis Winston, right? So, Tampa Bay until Brady came back out of retirement. There was a few options on the table, but I think that move to Seattle, going out west, completely different atmosphere for Baker, kind of a little fresh reset from some point of view. But I'd also, switching gears, try to get Tyrann Mathieu if the Eagles can get him. I think he's still top-notch safety in the NFL. I think his personality and his attitude fits kind of the Philadelphia scheme as far as what you like to see in a player here in Philadelphia. And surprising to me is the fact that he's still out there as well. And I don't know how much money he's going to command on the open market, battled some injuries and whatnot a few times also this past season in Kansas City. So I think adding him to an Eagles roster, again, that'll be something else we have to get into with how you guys think Howie Roseman has handled this free agency and whatnot. But Baker to the Seahawks would be interesting to me. And also if the Eagles can go out there and sign the Honey Badger, try to get that defense shored up because, signing Zach Pascal for me doesn't move the needle. Hassan Reddick was a solid signing, but the Eagles definitely still need more added to this team. I think they've struck out for the most part in free agency if you look big picture.
Yeah, and you go to the Seahawks where they have Drew Lock and Geno Smith. Not the most
those guys are so awful, Tanner. Those guys are awful. They shouldn't even be in the NFL.
There was a chance after Russell Wilson went down with that finger injury that he was going to be able to lead them to victory. He did pretty well taking over and their spot. But do you think if Baker Mayfield is added to the Seahawks, DK Metcalf says, okay, I'll stay?
That's a good question. I don't know if that's even going to factor into it. I think the big thing is overall is like, how is the team going to rally around Baker? There's so much drama with him in, Cleveland, all the commercials, all the buzz, all the, keyword drama. And he goes to Seattle. They got a rowdy fan base, but Pacific Northwest, things are a little bit less stressful there, you would think. Nothing in the NFL is, not stressful, but in Seattle compared to Cleveland, where, you're talking about a team that just is on you, and trying to, go to the playoffs and make a deep run. You look back last year when the Browns steamrolled the Steelers and got to the NFC, I don't think it was the divisional or the AFC championship game. And you're thinking, wow, Baker, okay, he's taking that step forward. I mean, got knocked off by the Chiefs, but so be it. He went into Pittsburgh in the COVID season and knocked off the Steelers, and then just takes 2 steps back this year. So it's a weird career for him so far coming out of Oklahoma. But I think it's a decent fit there in Seattle.
Yeah, a lot of moving pieces. And T, I don't know if you had more to say on that topic before we get specifically into the Eagles.
You know what? In terms of Baker,
you guys aren't Baker fans, right? You guys both aren't huge Baker guys.
No, Baker guy. I was rooting for Baker.
Yeah, I was kind of sort of rooting for him. Like, don't get me wrong, I'm not his biggest fan. I don't have a shrine made in his honor, but I think he's a decent quarterback. And I think, when you think about, it's the Cleveland Browns. Look at the hand that he was dealt with early in his career. I mean, he had to go through 2-3 coordinators till what you talked about, Tanner, his breakout year. And unfortunately, he didn't live up to the hype in the previous year, unfortunately. But, he's one of those guys that's flashy, and, he's got all the commercials going and things of that nature. So, yeah, people are automatically going to say something about him. I mean, most quarterbacks, let's be honest here. Most quarterbacks are going to be in commercials. Hell, Jalen Hurts is in a Paramount Plus commercial. Like, come on now.
He's also advertising used car sales as well.
I did see
Not
that.
the best acting. I've seen better
right.
acting out of an NFL quarterback. But anyway, let's focus now on the Eagles with Colin Cowherd released a way too early standings prediction. And he had the Eagles third in the NFC East. The Commanders were in front. And then it was the Cowboys somehow, because the Cowboys aren't really making any splash moves in free agency. They add another running back, and they add a few little players here and there, but nothing to be scared of if you're an opponent to the Cowboys. But they have the Commanders, Cowboys, Eagles, Giants. That is his list. What do you guys think about that?
Okay, so the Cowboys are still king of the NFC East. There's no doubt about that. That's my personal opinion. Yes, they lost some players via free agency. Yes, they traded away Amari Cooper. But they're talent-wise, they're still the best team in the NFC East. I hate to say that, but they are still the best team. I don't argue with them on that. In terms of Washington, I don't know how Carson Wentz is going to work out. I don't know what type of offense they're going to put him in just yet. If you put him in a pass-happy offense, Carson Wentz is going to struggle. Because
careful what you say, T. Careful what you say, because Max is waiting to jump in.
Yeah, I know. The jackass, he's always waiting. Anyway, the reason why I say this is because Carson Wentz, the more he throws, the more likely he is to make mistakes. If you notice in the beginning last year when he was with Indianapolis, they put him in a pass-happy offense, and they didn't really win a whole lot of games. It wasn't until they started putting the offense on the back of Jonathan Taylor and the pressure was taken off of Carson Wentz that you saw Carson Wentz start to succeed a little bit more. So they started winning it despite Carson Wentz. So
gunslinger mentality, T. Come on, gunslinger.
He has a gunslinger mentality, but he got to be able to reach the field, man. Well, how many times have we said that about Carson Wentz? He struggles sometimes.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I think it's an interesting rankings. I think we can all agree the Giants are awful and they'll come in last again. But overall, the Cowboys are still the best team in the division. They have the best quarterback in the division. And I think the Eagles, overall, you look at their offseason with Pascal, Reddick, you re-signed Fletcher Cox. I wasn't a huge fan of that re-signing, but you need bodies, I guess. That was the argument I've talked about with some people, is that you needed bodies up there to just stuff the run. And Hargrave had a couple of good games, but he's not, I guess as great as we thought he could have been coming from Pittsburgh. Nazir White, I think, or Kazir White, however you pronounce his first name, he is going to be a solid player, I hope, coming off a really good year with the Chargers, and Anthony Harris re-signed as well. So I think the Eagles are still going to be running that rock, and I think they're going to come in second in the division again behind the Cowboys.
Now, the Chargers' pass defense did struggle at times during the season, and some could point to White's performance in that. But I mean, a team that's been searching for a linebacker and add Reddick earlier and then now White definitely does not hurt this Eagles team. And we talk about the draft picks. We're still talking about those draft picks because the draft hasn't happened, of course. Go ahead, T.
Well, the thing with Kazir is Kazir's not an outside pass rushing linebacker. He's more or less a middle linebacker. And considering the fact that they play mostly a 3-4 defense out there in Los Angeles, and I think he's coming off a year where he had 144 tackles in the previous year. Like that's some crazy production. And if you talk to Chargers fans, they're very upset that he's not coming back and that he's with the Eagles. So
especially on that cheaper of a contract as well.
Right. So I think the Eagles picked up a hell of a linebacker. Now it just depends on what position they put him in to make plays. They better put him at middle.
Draft coming up too. I mean, there's still these 3 picks Eagles can work with here and add to that defense. I think Howie Roseman just won't shy away from adding an offensive piece. So I think he's definitely going to use one of those picks on some sort of offensive player, whether it be a lineman, whether it be a receiver. But overall, I think 2, if not all 3, should be used on the defense because, listen, the offense is built around the run, and if they're going to harp on it and continue to do so, you got a solid offensive line, but you might need to add an offensive lineman just because there's some aging guys up front. You have that center at Iowa, which Kelsey going to be gone after the next year, you would think. So Lane Johnson's getting up there as well. Mailata's and Dickerson you had, stapled in there, but I would like them to see another offensive lineman added. And then after that, you're probably going to need an edge rusher because I don't see Derek Barnett. I wouldn't be surprised if Derek Barnett is gone after this year or even midway through this year, honestly, because he resigned it with a 2-year contract, but I just don't see how that's going to work out. At the end of this year, I wouldn't be surprised if he just cut and let go because he had 2 sacks all last season in a full season worth of games. It's just not good enough. So I think the Eagles are going to have to go out there and draft another edge rusher and then hopefully a defensive back as well.
Let's just put a pin real quick and just talk about that just for a hot minute. That was the stupidest. You're paying. I understand he's not making a whole lot of money. I'm not making no fuss about how much money Derek Barnett is making. But Howie Roseman, you decided to resign a guy who has more career penalties than he has sacks. Like,
it's stupid.
What are you thinking? I don't understand that. Not to mention how many holes Derek Barnett, just by himself, how many holes did he put the defense in? Just by himself. I don't understand it. I'd rather take a chance on a 3rd or 4th round edge rusher and have him in the rotation more than I would trust Derek Barnett. That's how little faith I have in Barnett. That was a stupid signing. You should have let him just walk. I'm sorry. He's a bonehead.
Yeah, it was so aggravating last season. Every penalty thrown, it was like, okay, who is it? Of course, it's Derek Barnett.
Always
and
him.
just pushing the team in the bad spots on the field and hurting the team.
He sucks so bad. Like I just want to put that out there real quick. He's terrible.
Oh yeah.
In the playoff game, he didn't do anything. He can't get after the pass. He can't get after the quarterback. You saw it in the playoff game against Tampa Bay. Just could not do anything on that defensive line to create pressure. I know Josh Sweat missed a game. That was a huge loss because he was just starting to hit his stride at the end of the regular season, then had that emergency surgery. So people probably, forget about that in some sort of sense. But, if he's healthy, not saying the game would have turned out differently, but pressure would have been put up more on Brady than what the Eagles ended up getting. So if you're getting Sweat back this year healthy, Barnett, it's a terrible signing. I think it's just horrible signing. Terrible. Horrible.
Yeah. Who knows? Maybe he'll take this criticism and turn it into something positive to show on the field, but
it's
did not
negative.
See a lot of that.
No positive
last season. With all that being said, though, real quick, what are your guys' off-season grades for the Eagles?
Give him like a C+, honestly.
Ooh, you're a whole lot more nicer than I am. You are a whole lot more.
You guys are harsh.
I'm giving him a
plus. I mean, listen, Hassan Reddick is the only reason I'm up that high because look, Zach Pascal, like I'll go walk out on the street right now and find a Zach Pascal. Like nobody special, just a good shifty slot guy. Just only here because he played in Indy with Nick Sirianni. If he didn't play with Sirianni, he wouldn't even be here. Listen, you want to tell me he's better than Jalen Reagor? Fine, whatever, cool. He's better than Jalen Reagor. You're setting the bar so low. So he's going to step in here. Is he better than he might not even be better than Nelson Aguilar when Aguilar was here in his prime, honestly. When Aguilar was here, not now Nelson Aguilar. I'm talking about when he was here. When he was here with the Eagles and he made his, his decent run, so to speak. So, as your like number 2 splash signing this offseason, because everything else was basically a re-sign for the most part with Fletcher Cox, Kelsey, whatnot. I know they've got White too as his linebacker position, which is, addressing that is huge. And then Hassan Reddick's a legit pass rusher. He's going to be a huge help. But overall, definitely underwhelming, especially because all offseason we were talking about, let's go possibly grab a quarterback. We're going to trade all these picks for like a Deshaun Watson, and then to fall flat and roll with Zach Pascal. I watched Zach Pascal's highlights. The highlight reel went for about a minute 30 seconds.
It was
that's it
was only 2 different games. Only ridiculous. 2 different games they showed in that highlight.
I get excited. Reel. I'm like, oh, Zach Pascal. Let me go check it out. I'm like, wow, 2 minutes worth of highlights.
Funny to me too.
Yep. Yeah, look, I'm giving them a D. I am so underwhelmed.
By Hassan Reddick is a good signing, though.
Hassan Reddick is the only thing that I can hang my hat on in terms of big name signings. Zach Pascal on a regular average team, Zach Pascal is the 4th or 5th best right receiver. Let's be honest here. He gets elevated. He gets elevated here because we don't have any damn receivers here. That's the only reason why he has as high of a ranking here compared to an average football team. Not to mention the fact that how many players were we rumored to be in, and how many of those players did we get?
Why didn't we sign a receiver either, like an actual receiver, like a good receiver?
That's same reaction a lot of other Eagles fans.
Like you think about it, you need to have somebody on the other side. Like Allen Robinson goes to the Rams. Like I wanted Allen Robinson because you had Robinson and Devontae Smith with Dallas Goedert. That's a legit 3, solid 3. Because Devontae Smith, listen, can he develop into a number 1? Maybe, but right now he's strictly a number 2. Flat out a number 2 guy, which is not a problem. That's fine. I know we took him in the first round, whatnot, but it's fine. He's a plug and play number 2 wide receiver. I just wanted somebody with either equal value, like an equal wide receiver number 2, or low end wide receiver 1. But now you got to roll with Quez Watkins and Zach Pascal. That's just not good enough. And even if you draft somebody in the first round, like, is that really going to move the needle? Like, who knows? Okay, maybe you get like a Drake London, whoever the hell else from Baylor. I know there's one other guy that's being talked about. But go ahead, Tanner. I don't know if you have any names in front of you there.
No, I don't. But as you guys are saying this, with your harsh grading, geez, I'm glad I didn't have you guys as teachers in school. But just talking about this, T, what in this draft would help bump that grade up? And also another question, this is for you too, Max. How would you give up a first and maybe 2 firsts? I don't know. On DK Metcalf, add him to this Eagles roster. That's would you do that?
I would definitely give up a first round pick. I don't know about 2, but I'd definitely give up a first.
So
you need a guy who's reliable, who can come in and be a staple. We don't have that. Somebody's got to help out Devontae on the other side.
I agree with you. And in terms of them, how are they going to improve this offseason? They're going to have to go to the draft, and they're going to have to fill in those holes that they were not able to fill in via free agency. Look, and we've talked about it before, but you need another receiver. So
I'm tired. I am tired of young receivers not being successful on this team and just sitting on the bench for years. And when they come in, we're like, oh, I didn't even know he was still on the team. I'm tired of that. They needed to make a free agency move.
I agree with you, but how many times have we drafted a receiver over a receiver that was supposed to be drafted, that we were supposed to draft, had the opportunity to draft, knew we were supposed to draft, but didn't? So who does that follow?
We can talk fantasy all we want, but when you look at it, we've drafted bums, except for, Devontae Smith was a hit. But going back, and I agree with you, Justin Jefferson was an obvious pick that was skipped over. DK Metcalf, but you can make that wrong all right by trading that first round pick and adding DK to the roster.
Listen, and Devontae Adams got what did they get for Adams there? He got a first round pick, right? It wasn't 2 first rounders. It was 1 and then a 3rd, I think, or a 4th or something like that. It was like it was a group of picks, but there was only 1 first round pick. So if you're telling me, hey, the 1st and a 4th for DK, sure, I'll do that. Because
I would
if you get DK in here, look out. And Tanner, you're Mr. Jalen Hurts over there. You're going to need your boy to get some weapons around him so he's going to keep his job. Because if he doesn't get any help, he's out of here after this year.
Yeah, I know that for sure. 100%. I know that. And it starts, it's hard because there are still a few holes to fill on this Eagles team. We talk about that aging offensive line. And I heard you guys not mention Jack Driscoll as well, because there's no confidence in this depth.
Yeah.
We mentioned the fill-in guys like Mailata and Dickerson. But really, what position will this team be in 2 years if they do not start now with the offensive line drafting? You know what? I think that they don't draft a wide receiver those first 2 picks. They hold on till late in the first round, and they work on building around Jalen Hurts, specifically on that offensive line, because we've seen he can move it. He can move the ball. He's got the speed, athleticism. He just needs that time back in the pocket.
Tanner, I cannot tell you how pissed I will be if they pick an offensive lineman in the first round. Words cannot describe how angry I will be. I understand what you're saying, that we need to start building on this offensive line. And I completely understand. Mailata and Dickerson, that's your left side. That's solid for the next years to come. Kelsey, we've been saying for years, we need to find a backup replacement for him. Right guard, I'm thinking they either put Jack Driscoll or Isaac Seumalo up in there. Either which one doesn't matter to me. You might want to draft somebody back up Lane Johnson, because he's getting long in the tooth as well. You cannot. There's too many other positions, prime positions, other than the offensive line, that needs to be addressed with those first round draft picks outside of offensive line. You still don't have a number 2 corner. You're going into a season where your current safeties are Anthony Harris and Marcus Epps. Max, I know you're not comfortable with that.
No, I'm not comfortable with that. I mean, those guys are jackasses, let's be honest. But I think overall, no, I'm kidding. Anthony Harris
Speaking
is
on their name.
Harris is Marcus
I want winners.
Physical player. We're trying. Again, it's hard talking to me about this because I'm a big picture person here. I'm trying to win a Super Bowl, and you hand me a roster of what the Eagles have now, and it's like, it looks like just one of those things somebody just scribbled out of a copybook, handed to me, and said this team's going to finish 9-8. So it's not good enough, flat out. So when I'm sitting here explaining my frustrations, this isn't about making, we're not turning this thing around overnight. But when you, like you said, too, when you hand me Marcus Epps and Anthony Harris as my starting safeties, like, what am I supposed to do with that? You know what I mean? Am I supposed to sit here and say, hey, I'm happy about that? I just can't do that.
And Max, I'm sure you were not happy hearing what Howie Roseman had to say the other day about this team building, and they can't take away the pillars and yada, yada, yada. I mean, it sounds like he is willing to take a lot of time
First off,
and not focus on that bigger picture, like you mentioned, Max.
That's what happens when you get a 3-year extension. That's what happens.
Guys, what pillars are on this team that's left? What damn pillars? The pillars are old, and they need to be replaced at this point. You have no damn pillars. There is no more foundation on this team. It needs to be rebuilt again. You have failed to do that through the draft. You have failed to do that through free agency. I don't know what the hell Howie Roseman was saying the other day. Because there are no pillars.
To be honest, the only untouchable guys on this team, to me personally, and add one if you think I forgot one, but Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith are the 2 untouchables on this team.
Dallas Goedert's iffy.
Really?
I think Dallas Goedert is iffy because I expect more from him. He drops the ball in very bad situations where I need him to catch the football. So until I see consistency out of him, I'm just saying.
I don't have a problem with him. I don't have a problem with Goedert. There should be 15 to 16 to 20 other guys you complain about on this team before you get to Dallas Goedert.
I agree.
I think overall, generally, go ahead.
I agree with you. Don't get me wrong. I agree with you, but that's the issue. I should be talking about 10 to 15 other guys before I even get to Dallas. That's the damn issue. Why is Dallas Goedert and Devontae Smith my primary guys on the squad? That's not good. That tells you that you don't really have a
skill
squad.
Players. Offensive skill players. I mean, even the quarterback at this point is
Ryan Kerrigan still on this team?
Untouchable.
No, he's gone.
Thank God, man! What a waste of a signing that was. He's terrible. Listen, I think generally
speaking, the season, I forgot he was even on the team.
Yeah,
Milton Williams too. Milton Williams should be a solid rotational piece. When I sit here and actually try to look at some of these players, Sean Bradley, like where is he? Is he still special teamer? Is he a guy that can actually give us something?
No, he's a special teamer. He was a 7th round pick, so it's only
Devontae Maddox out of the slot, Zach McPherson out of the slot.
Devontae Maddox did good in the slot. That's the issue. You try to push them to the outside, we're gonna have some issues. I'll tell you that right now.
This is one of the biggest threats for the Philadelphia Eagles, arguably in their history, because with 3 first-round picks and the lack of depth on this team, you need to hit on, I hate to say it, but all 3 if you want to try to get back into the Super Bowl contention short term. Because
forget your Super Bowl contention. Just build your team to be able to win a division at this point, because it really shouldn't be that hard to be the division. To hell with the Super Bowl right now. Win the damn division.
Is Steven Nelson still out there? Like, is he going to get re-signed, or what's the deal?
Yeah, he's still out there. I don't know. If they playing a long ball with him. I guess it depends on what they do via the draft. I don't know. Yeah,
I would say, because you have to look, if you look at this team and say, hey, okay, what if they bring back Steven Nelson on a 1-year contract and they draft somebody in the first round? Guys like Patrick Surtain and J.C. Horn, like last year, they could have stepped in right away and been a lockdown corner alongside Darius Slay. I don't know if there's a corner at that skill level yet this year that's coming out. I would have to go back and look at some mocks. But if you have that guy, obviously you go out there and get him if you have the opportunity. But if not, and you got to go to a guy who's maybe not as talented as Patrick Surtain, but still a first round, second round tweener, it might be worth taking that pick. Have him play, but of course, kind of learn if you can get Slay and Nelson to kind of be your staples, at least for this year, because Slay, with being 31 years old, he's not going to have too many superstar seasons left in him. And also Nelson would be gone again after a 1-year contract. But I think Nelson will probably get more than just a 1-year deal, considering he had a decent year last year in Philadelphia. So cornerback is a must for me, because Darius Slay is also a trade candidate for myself, possibly. Not saying this year you can't trade him yet, but before he hits that, I try to get rid of guys before they hit that shelf when they just collapse. What's Darius Slay? It's almost like a Reese Hoskins type of thing. Reese Hoskins, he sucks at first base, but if you can trade him right now for a pitcher and move Bohm over to first, maybe little things like that, where before Slay loses all of his value, it's almost like a Fletcher Cox. The Eagles traded Fletcher Cox 2 years ago. They could have got something legit for him, and now they're stuck with his slow ass, and he can't produce at a high level. Now we're stuck with him. No, seriously, they waited too long. Even last year, they were trying to trade him. Those rumors came out mid-season. Oh, we're going to try to trade Fletcher Cox, and they just couldn't get anything for him. It was like a 5th-round pick at best, and that's what they got for Ertz overall, but just not good enough. And I don't want to wait too long to get rid of these guys. I think Slay has got one more year on his deal, and we'll see what happens after that.
Yeah, Ertz signing a big contract with Arizona a few weeks back too. He got his money. Now, let's change the topic a little bit, because hopefully, in a few years when we look back at this trade, we are talking about how he hit on each one of those first-round picks, and not how that was his biggest failure of his Eagles tenure. Let's get to the NFL rule change that happened today. Both teams are now assured of a possession in playoff overtime, approved by NFL owners. What are your guys' initial thoughts on this?
I'm going to give you my initial thought right now, straight up.
It's an outrage.
It's the stupidest rule I think I've ever heard in my life. Like, why would you change that? Look here, it's about offense and defense. The offensive job is to score. The defensive job is to stop the offense from scoring. If your defense didn't get the job done, oh well, take your ass home, get better. Period, point blank. I'm sorry. Like, why does every team? But here's the thing, and this literally just came to my mind as I'm talking about this. The NFL has made rules and gotten to a point where defense doesn't even matter, to the point where each team now has to possess the ball in overtime. Doesn't that say something about how you constructed the rules against the defense? The fact that you're allowing both teams to be able to have an opportunity to score? It's stupid. No.
Well, listen, T, if your defense is good enough and better than the other team's defense, you won't be forced into overtime in the first place.
I agree with that, but I can say the same thing about playing extra minutes in overtime due to the fact that the other team now has to score to match the first team scoring. That's stupid.
To leave a game like the Chiefs and Bills up to a coin flip does a disservice to the fans. That's my point. Does a disservice to the fans. I see your point. I agree with you. Like it does. It kind of limits. It makes a mockery in a way of the defense in the NFL. Both those defenses were gassed. If the Bills get the ball, they go down, they score and win. If the Chiefs got the ball, they obviously went down and scored, they win. So from that standpoint, You look back a couple years back when you had Frank Clark, I believe, or D Ford, it might have been actually jump off sides in overtime and cost the Chiefs. Brady and ended up going down, scoring, and advancing to the Super Bowl. So it goes both ways. But I think from a fan's perspective and just an entertainment point of view, most fans will probably like it because you look back on that game last year and you say to yourself, wow, we could have got Allen back out there again to try to tie Mahomes. And at that point, you're taking the best skill set, the offense of the Bills, the best skill set, the offense of the Chiefs. And you're basically going out there and saying to yourself, listen, both your defenses are shot. The better team will score consistently each and every possession. And if you can't score, then you don't deserve the win because that game came out of scoring. There's no defense played in that game. The better offense deserved to win. And I think if you just kept having that shootout back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and finally picked a winner who didn't score a touchdown, I don't know. I think it would have been clearly entertaining, but I do see your point. You also have the college rules. What do you think about the college rule where you line up on the two and you have the 2-point conversion attempts back and forth?
I don't like that either. Like, let the team, whoever possesses the team and whoever possesses the ball in overtime after the coin toss, they get the opportunity to end the game. Very point blank. At that point, it's up to the defense to stop the offense from scoring. I agree with you in terms of how awesome that Chiefs-Bills game was. I mean, that was one of the greatest games, probably the greatest game I have ever seen in my entire life. However, and don't get me wrong, the playoffs this year were extravagant. Like the playoffs were excellent this past.
Wild playoffs this year.
But correct me if I'm wrong. Was that the only overtime game in the postseason? Correct me if I'm wrong. I believe that was the only overtime game in the postseason. So that game, albeit it was great and nobody wanted it to end, those games only come few far in between. So if you're making this rule based off of that game, a game that we're probably going to see probably only every 5 to 7 years, that's not good. That's a stupid way to make a rule. That a game like that aren't going to happen like that.
I don't think the rule is just going to be made because of this situation. It's been complained about for years and years, but I guess my opinion is that the complaining after the game really is nonsense because each player, coach, each team, they knew the rules heading into the game.
Right.
And I think it's just ridiculous how after the game, depending on if they lose, is when they bring up this problem. But now the rules are changed and we will be able to see through trial and error how this rule really affects the NFL. And I understand that both college and the NFL, they're TV schedules, they got to follow along with it. They don't want a game going on and on forever. Right. This might extend over time.
Right.
But with college, I mean, we witnessed games last season where they would just go on for like 5 hours, it felt. And you go back to that Penn State game, that was just the longest game ever. But I mean, we'll see. I'm not against it. And the fact that NFL owners signed on to it, that's promising as well. Now, let's get into this Philadelphia basketball team that we have over here. They are 46-28. They beat the Miami Heat without Joel Embiid or James Harden on the team. Tyrese Maxey shined in that game as well as other bench players. They go on a West Coast trip. They beat the Lakers and Clippers. They lose to the Suns. However, the Lakers nor Clippers had their two main starters in their game. What do you guys make of the recent games for the Sixers? Can you really make anything of it not playing the full healthy Clippers or Lakers, and then the way they sort of let it go against the Suns late in the final minutes of that game?
I think they have the firepower and the caliber to beat teams like the Clippers and the Lakers, regardless of, how, especially the Lakers, regardless of how many of their star players were on the court, because the Lakers really have been that hot this entire season. Like, let's be honest here. The Clippers their main superstars are full of injuries. We don't know how they would have played this year anyway. So we can speculate back and forth on that. We'd be all day with that. The Lakers, like I said, they've been a weak team this entire team. The Suns was really the measuring point for the Sixers. And as you can see, Sixers don't equal out to the amount of firepower and the way the Suns
the best
operate.
team in the league.
The Suns, exactly. The Suns are the best team in the league. The Suns are not just a playoff contender; they are championship contenders for a reason. So the Sixers aren't nowhere near that, and I think we're starting to realize that. Like, we were hyping first when the trade first went down for James Harden. Everybody was excited. Everybody was, reserving their spots on Broad Street and talking about a parade. And the whole time I'm like, there's still holes in the squad. You got to build the squad up first. Like, the squad still needs a bench. James Harden looks like he's lost a step. All these things are coming to fruition, and you're starting to see this against the elite teams in the NBA.
I agree with you. The Sixers are in trouble, big picture. And you talk about this year and even next year, because Harden, he's been good for the Sixers. He's been better than Seth Curry. He's been better than Andre Drummond.
Correct.
But you literally have 6 players on this team. That's what you got. You got 6 players. Matisse Thybulle, moving forward, is going to be a huge part of this team, because you need Matisse Thybulle. And people say, in college, you play 4 years, you reach your ceiling. Like, does Thybulle have any ceiling left to get to? I think he does. I think he can still continue to get better. Will he ever be an excellent ball handler? Probably not. But he needs to be able to score at some level, because the Sixers right now, when you talk about Tyrese Maxey, who continues to take steps and leaps and bounds forward, Embiid is obviously the MVP of the league. Harden is a concern for me moving forward with his age, and that was something coming in we thought about. But I was hoping to see some more 40-point performances. I was hoping to see James Harden. I think I got a little ahead of myself because I saw James Harden as the Houston Rockets James Harden, and that's just not what he is anymore. He's still 25 points a game. He's still 10 assists a game, but he's not going to give you 43 and 15 a game like he used to give you. So I think that we all have to realize that, but that's not the problem. The problem is on the bench. The problem is DeAndre Jordan shouldn't be playing. He should be bagging groceries now. He shouldn't be in the league anymore.
You think Paul Millsap should be taking his minutes?
I think Paul Millsap should join him at Acme.
Wow.
I think Charles Bassey should be the guy to back up Joel Embiid, because he's young. He can give you something offensively besides just standing under the basket like Ben Simmons and looking for rebounds. He can't defend the rim anymore, DeAndre Jordan. Just can't. He can't defend. He has no lower inside interior presence, and he just doesn't offer the Sixers anything at all. He offers you nothing defensively. He doesn't give you any. Like, what is this? If he gets you 5 rebounds, you're like, whoa, wow, DeAndre Jordan really going out there and giving you a ton of rebounds. Now I get it. He's only playing about 10 to 15 minutes a game. But when you watch him literally with your eyes and you see, it's almost like the Sixers are playing 5-on-4 sometimes out there, because all you see him is running up and down the court. He really gives you, what did he set a couple of screens? Like, sounds good. Yeah, it sounds awesome. But
low lights,
just not good enough for Korkmaz, who, we watched that Miami Heat game. I know we all saw it. All the reserves played. Everybody looked great. Shake Milton all of a sudden is back on track. Korkmaz. And then Doc Rivers decides, you know what? Korkmaz, you're not playing anymore. Another couple of did not participate for Korkmaz the last few nights. I don't think he played at all in that Phoenix game. And it just I start getting a little worried, because if the Sixers can't get the job done this year, and they're not going to, there's better teams than them. The Bucks are better. The Nets are better still. I'm sorry to say. The Nets are a better team. And so are the Phoenix Suns. The Warriors are also better. So next year is the big year. What can Daryl Morey do? And I hate to keep putting it on Morey because he's doing what he can. He made the splash to get Harden. But you can't just rely on Niang to come off your bench every night and be the 6th guy. And that's it. You have Milton coming in playing backup minutes, who's inconsistent as hell. And then you got Isaiah Joe. You got Charlie Brown. You got guys that are on this roster who really shouldn't even be. They're there just in case an injury or something happens to one of the other starters. Doc Rivers continues to only play 6 or 7 guys, and that's going to kill the Sixers in the playoffs, because this is all meaningless regular season games to me. I don't care if they get the 1st seed. I don't care if they get the 5th seed. The best teams come out of the NBA at the end of the day, whether you win on the road or you win at home. We saw it last year with the Atlanta Hawks. The Hawks said, screw, we don't need home court advantage. We're just going to go out there and win. They beat the Sixers in Philly 3 out of 4 games. So it doesn't matter. The better teams are going to win. Why are you playing Harden 40 minutes a night with 7 meaningless games left in the regular season when these guys are going to have to be playing 40 minutes a night in the playoffs? Harden's going to play 40. Maxi's going to play 40. Embiid's going to play 40. In a 7-game series, by the time they get to the Eastern Conference Finals, they're going to be worn out.
Sounds like you also got some beef with the coaching as well.
I know you do as well, T.
Yeah, you already know my feelings on the coaching. I ain't that hot on it anymore. I'm just not. And I agree with you.
Can't, man. You got it. These guys are on your team for a reason. These guys are getting paid. Why is Charlie Brown just sitting for 3-4 weeks in a row without even playing? Get him out there. See what the hell he can provide for you. If he sucks, at least give him some games to see what he's got. If he's terrible, then get him off the team. But why is he even on the team if he's not even going to get an opportunity?
Good point.
I mean, Isaiah Joe. This is a guy that Sixers drafted in the second round. I mean, he's a 3-point specialist, a 3-point shooter. I think Doc Rivers gives him 3 games. And if he doesn't drop 15 points, it's like, all right, you're out of the lineup. What do you expect from the guy? He's only playing about 9 minutes a game anyway.
Point. He's got a point. I hate to admit it, but Max definitely hit on every single point about the 76ers. It's one of the things that we've been complaining about for the past couple of years is the bench depth in terms of scoring off the bench. That's one of the things that we've been concerned with even before.
Can't regret the trade, T. Also can't regret the trade at this point. They pulled the trigger on the best player they can get, and that's
I think the trade definitely benefited the Sixers as well. The trade did benefit both the teams, as we discussed before, and James Harden has helped the team, especially in terms of playmaking and distributing the ball and taking the pressure off of Embiid. I think the trade has done that. However, the team overall still needs help, as you just described. That's the issue. There's no bench depth. You need some more scoring from your starting 5. And coaching is still questionable. You hit on all the points.
And a thought that keeps me up at night is that the Nets are much better than the Sixers right now, and Ben Simmons still hasn't played yet.
That's the sick
That's
part.
what really haunts me.
That's the sick.
Because Seth Curry, who, I'll be honest with you, a good player, but all of a sudden now he's dropping 27 points in a Nets uniform. Where was that with the Sixers?
The difference is, though, they have more superstar players and they had more superstar players surrounding him than he did here. The only superstar player that was here when he was here was Joel Embiid. He had to be that second superstar. Where now he's on a team where he's like the third or fourth scorer every night. So the pressure's not really on him. He can just stand in a corner or stand on the perimeter and shoot that 3 whenever that ball comes to him.
I just got a sick feeling this season's going to end with the Nets knocking out the Sixers, and we're all going to get our asses laughed at because we traded for Harden that didn't work out, and the Nets beat us. That would be literally, you talk about the worst thing that could happen in Philadelphia. That might be it. Ben Simmons getting the last laugh as his team. He's not even playing, and they still beat the Sixers and advance in the playoffs. The Sixers have to hope that doesn't happen because that'll be one of the most embarrassing things that's come through this city.
That would make me sick.
And keeping on the Sixers talk, there is a game tonight against the Milwaukee Bucks. Now, how do you guys think that they're going to fare? Because last time the Sixers and Bucks faced off, James Harden had not yet played for the 76ers. I believe Brook Lopez, Grayson Allen, George Hill didn't play for the Bucks. And we're able to see both teams at near full health against. What are you guys looking for in this matchup to really help you prove that this team can go farther in the playoffs than they have gone in the past 2 seasons? Because we've sort of been on a negative note with this team as of late, but what do you guys think this team needs to do going forward?
In this game, I'm looking for how much further are you than the rest of the Eastern Conference? Where exactly do you rank? Because you're obviously not the top team, but where exactly do you rank? You're better than Chicago. We know that. You've dominated Chicago this year. You did beat Miami. So you can arguably say that you're better than Miami. The Bucks have given you issues. So where do you rank in the East? Where exactly is your ranking? Brooklyn's better than you. Where's your ranking? Where Where do you stand in the East? Are the Bucks? Can you beat the Bucks? If you see the Bucks in the playoffs, can you beat the Bucks in a 7-game series? Can you overtake the Bucks? That's what I'm looking for.
Bucks schedule, T? I don't know if you saw it, but down the stretch is crazy. I mean, Grizzlies, they lose Saturday night 127-102 at the Grizzlies. They lose. Then they got to play Philly on the road tonight. Then they got to go at the Nets on Thursday. And then they got the Clippers, the Mavericks, the Bulls, the Celtics, the Pistons, who are terrible, and then the Cavaliers, who have been solid. So that's going to be some tough games. But if you look at what Mike Budenholzer has done, guys, in Milwaukee, like when his guys need a rest, he doesn't care. Fine. The other night, they're playing the Grizzlies. They get their asses handed to them. And it's like, wow, the Bucks, are they like, people overreact regular season NBA? It's like, wow, the Bucks, man, they just got beat by almost 30 to the Grizzlies. Do you think Mike Budenholzer gets on the plane back to Milwaukee and is like, man, I'm nervous now? You know what I mean?
Really.
Like Drew Holiday needed the night off. Fine. So Holiday got the night off. Wherever they land, I'm sure he doesn't care, because when these games matter, if you go back and look, Phoenix Suns earlier this year on March 6th, they beat them by 10 at home. You know, when you get your guys going and all of them play, the Bucks are legit. And my point is, Doc, why are you playing Harden 40 minutes tonight? Sit Harden tonight. Who cares about this game? Let the Bucks win. It doesn't matter. Just get these guys healthy and ready to roll for the playoffs. I'm not trying to puss around in round one against whoever we play and go 6-7 games. We got to wipe the floor in 4 games. Whoever we play in the first round, as long as it's not obviously Brooklyn or something ridiculous. But don't waste your energy on these teams. Come out, play legit, sweep a team in the first round, and then give yourself some extra rest for when these games actually get hard. So if you have to go 7 games, then you got the stamina late in the season in the summer to get through there and be successful. I don't care if the Sixers lose this game by 40 tonight or win by 40. Does it really play a role in how we think about this team? Like, really, does it play, Tanner? If they win by 40 tonight, are you like, Sixers are winning the finals?
No.
You know what I mean?
Oh, no, I am never that positive on this Sixers team, Max. And that opens up the discussion, really, how important is this first seed in this race to the playoffs? Because
not at all.
And the Bucks know it all so well, because for going back 3 seasons, looking at the Bucks, first seed, no NBA championship. 3rd seed, they win their NBA championship. Yep. The first seed does not really matter, because if you're a good enough team to get to the championships, it does not matter who you go through, because you are better.
And we heard the rumors, Harden's hamstring. We've seen it in rumors about his hamstring still not being 100%. I'm not pushing him.
Yeah.
You know, what do they got? 7 games left? I'd sit him 4 out of the 7 games. Sit him 4 out of the 7 games.
That's fair, because playoffs matter the most out of everything. And while maybe the starters are sitting out, or in these games that are seemingly meaningless, they can still work on their zone defense that has been working out successfully the past since acquiring Harden, actually working on that zone defense, because you have guys like Giannis who are just gonna beat you on the boards, most likely, and working on the strategy. You're practicing for the postseason in the regular season. I'm not saying tank the rest of the season. None of us are saying that. Absolutely. But focusing on standings should not be top priority for the 76ers team. And I think we're all on the same page with that.
Yeah. Agree. I think too, like the Suns and Bucks, that rematch would be sick, man. Those are easily the 2 best teams in the league. The Nets and Sixers are going to try to have something to say about it. But if the Sixers don't get the job done this season, I don't think we're going to sit here and be like, hey, this run with Embiid is over. But next year is the year, because if they don't, Embiid might be like, hey, I need to win a championship. I'm not going to win a championship here. And he might want to request a trade out of Philly. And I know we don't want to hear about it, but think about that. Like, think of Embiid saying, we're not winning a title here. I want out.
Not the wildest.
I don't think Embiid will do that. I think instead he'll be like, well, nothing's happening. Let's make something move. And everyone's on the table except for him. And he's going to be staying there.
I think we've already done that.
We talk about that window with the age. I know. And it hasn't worked out. You look back at Jimmy Butler, it didn't work out because of Ben Simmons and coaching, both of which gone. Brett Brown gone. Ben Simmons gone. And Doc Rivers, and we're all also on the same page with this, not really the best situation Maybe we expected
terrible.
better, and
Terrible.
that could be a reason dragging this team down as well. But I do see that after I'm saying after this next year, because we gave this James Harden and Embiid situation 2-year window because of James Harden's health. They have to show progression in the playoffs. They have to get farther than they have been getting the past couple of years to really show us, okay, this team just needs this person or this person. The pieces are clear that need to be fit in. I mean, this is aggravating to be a Sixers fan, and also another team that has brought much frustration to the city of Philadelphia past couple years. Max's guy, Bryce Harper, leads this team. It's the Philadelphia Phillies, our last segment of the show. Spring training, the MLB lockout has finally ended. And Max, let's start with you. What do you like out of this team? Adding Schwarber, Castellanos to this team. You have Bryce Harper, Rhys Hoskins, the big bats, JT Realmuto. What do you like the most out of this team, and what do you find promising?
They finally got Schwarber to have a hit finally after, going hitless for his first 10 or 15 at bats. So that was good to see. This team is going to score runs. I think they traded Adam Hazley today, so he's gone.
Yes.
But I think generally speaking, from a bigger, again, looking big picture, because I tried to, it's going to be a long season, 162 games. There's going to be times where we want to throw the remote through the TV watching this team as they drop a pop fly in the left field or something like that, because their defense is going to suck so badly. So T, I'm waiting for that to come from you. But
told me so well.
to not have such a long-winded statement. I think that the starting pitching is going to be key for this team. The bullpen probably won't be amazing, because is it ever with Philadelphia? Probably not. We've seen it in years past, but Corey Knebel is trying to lock things down in the closer role. I like that. And the starting pitching, if Wheeler can continue to, stay steady, and Nola is huge. Can he bounce back from a horrible year last year and try to get back on track as far as being that number 2 in the rotation? That's going to be big. And as far as the offense goes, I just wish Odubel Herrera wasn't on the team anymore. I think that's where I stand. It sucks that he's going to be there in a platoon situation because he's just so bad. But Bryson Stott, a promising guy, can he make the opening day roster and even crack the lineup? I think a trade has to be made, because there's just too many players and not enough positions. Bryson Stott should be starting. Didi Gregorius, you can't bring him off your bench. He's paying $14 million. Alec Boehm, what do you do there? What do you do with Hoskins? You only have one DH spot. You already have Castellanos and Schwarber locking down that position. So there's just too many players right now for not enough spots. Is Segura going to be traded? Is Gregorius going to be traded? Is Boehm going to be traded? Is Hoskins going to be traded? Stott, you can't have just sit in the minor leagues. He's playing too hot this spring not to get him on the team. And you want to get him playing time. You don't want to have him cold off the bench. Johan Camargo, another player, he's been really solid this spring as well for the Phillies. He's going to play an important role either on the bench or, maybe even at third base, depending on how Joe Girardi wants to work this thing. I think a trade is going to be made before spring training ends. I don't know if it's going to – I'm assuming it's going to be for a pitcher, because I think the Phillies could use another starter. Every team can in baseball. And I don't know who the odd man out is going to be, but I think you have to, because every single one of the guys I just mentioned is major league ready, I think, right now.
So I was producing, I'm being trained to produce Phillies games for WIP. So I got to listen and also watch the Phillies go up against the Tigers this past Saturday. And I saw something that I saw yesterday that I seen last year. And that is, the Phillies can put up runs like crazy, but can they stop the other team from scoring?
Yeah,
that's the big
doesn't matter how many runs they put up if they have a bomb on the mound.
That's why you can call me a Debbie Downer all you want. I wasn't that hot about, Nick Castellanos signing here. I wasn't that hot about Kyle Schwarber being signed here. You added bats. You have enough bats. That's the issue. You need players that's going to help you stop the other team from scoring. Max, you know me so well. Yes, I'm going to bring up defense, because defense cost you a chance at the playoffs. Defense cost you a couple games last year. So you didn't work on defense. You just worked on adding more offense. You have plenty of offense. As you said, you've got more players that are the perfect position for the DH spot than you do actual guys who can play defense in the field.
Yeah.
That's the issue. Not to mention the fact that your starting rotation, your best pitcher isn't probably even going to be ready day one. Zach Wheeler's still going to be on the mat.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree with you.
I haven't even touched on the relief pitching and how horrible that's going to be. Like, everybody's hyped that we got all these hitters and whatnot, and Bryce has all this backup. We have plenty of hitters. We do not have guys that can stop the other team from scoring.
I think a big thing is going to be just the home run ball. I think that's huge. We talk about the bullpen, how bad it's going to be. Yeah, they're probably going to give up base runners, but can they just limit the home run ball? You hate to see a guy come in, have an inning, and give up a home run because it's hard to win when you keep giving up the long ball. Generally speaking, the way this Phillies bullpen's been built, if they give up base runners, they're going to give up continuous walks and hits too. It's not going to matter. But the home run is what the team needs to cut back on if they're going to try to win close games. As we always see it with the Phillies, they're always, for whatever reason, in close games. Kyle Gibson, Zach Eflin, hopefully healthy. Starting rotation from top to bottom has the depth there and the length to, go 6-7 innings. Every one of those guys has the depth and a length to go 6 or 7 innings for the Phillies. But the question is going to be, can the bullpen hold up? I'm not too worried about the starters. I think Wheeler, let him work through some things. He was a workhorse last year with the amount of innings he threw. So I'm kind of happy he's getting some rest early in spring. Let him gear himself back up. But Aaron Nola and the bullpen, I think Kyle Gibson at this point in his career consistent. And same thing with Eflin. So bullpen.
Yeah. Is this a make it or break it season for Aaron Nola?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I've already told you guys for a couple of years now, I haven't viewed him as an ace for some time now, and he's lost that designation, not just from me, but from more people. The more they talk about Aaron Nola, so yeah, this is a make or break year for him. He's got to get his stuff together.
Another guy that's prone to the home run ball. We'll see him go an inning and strike out the side, but in there he'll give up a home run. So that's the problem. Limit the home runs. And that he relies so much on his off-speed stuff where he leaves a hanging curveball and the guy will put it into the 15th row out in left field. That's the issue. When you have a power arm, you're less concerned with Wheeler giving up home runs because he'll throw it 99 right past you. Whereas Nola, he has the 92 on the fastball with a curveball or hanging changeup there. That's the one where you got to look out for. If he's not accurate, just like any pitcher, of course, but if he's not on that day, it's a dangerous game with Aaron Nola. And he's got to bounce back. I mean, if the Phillies are going to make a playoff run, he's going to have to be a workhorse, and he's going to have to be 6-7 innings, night in, night out. And everybody doesn't have a clunker in there, but he needs to get back on track. I'm not saying he has to finish third in the Cy Young voting like he did a few years ago. I just need him to have an ERA under 4.
Fair enough. Yeah, fair enough. And fittingly so, the Phillies drop 14 runs to the Yankees. And it's spring training, and I know Hoskins didn't play. But we talk about defense and letting up 14 runs in baseball.
They did it earlier, too, against the Tigers this week. They gave up 14.
Yeah.
It does not help their case defensively or their stale offense.
No, it doesn't.
But let's hope they turn things around when the season opener comes. And it's approaching. We will have one more show probably before baseball for the Phillies comes back on. But for today's show, we had to get you guys in on some sports talk. We were gone for a little bit, but that's going to wrap up our show. And also, please remember what we all learned this weekend. Keep Will Smith's wife's name out of you get it. You heard the rest. Thank you, guys.
You guys missed any of this episode, you can always go to Philly-Experience.simplecast.com. Available on all major downloadable platforms: Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube, the entire shebang. Okay, Tanner, that was funny. That's the way you win the show. That was funny. Yeah, keep Will Smith's wife name out your mouth. Otherwise,
had to bring it up.
You're going to get the Chris Rock treatment. Sorry.
You understand what I'm saying to you?
We should move it on to sports.
You piece of Swiss cheese. Yeah, that's ludicrous. What the hell is going on?